Hello again, and welcome to this episode of Simply Saturday. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. For today's Fast and Easy card, we're going to be using, much like we did last episode, some products that are going to be retiring and some other products that are sticking around. So as we go through the cards, I will let you know what is what. And stick with me today because I'm actually going to be making two of the first design, but with a variation. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to change up the measurements and give you an option. So stick with me to the end of the video. All right, so to begin with, the stamp set that I pulled the words from is this one. It's called Charming Sentiments. It does have coordinating dies, and this is a stamp set that is retiring. This is also one that I have chosen to not continue to hold on to in my stamp and die collection. So after May 1st, you'll see this stamp set and the coordinating dies in my Etsy shop. And if you need more information about that, you can definitely message me. All right, so that is where I got the Hey There stamp that we're going to start with. We're also going to use the thank you and one more. All of those stamps from that same set. All right, so to begin with, on card number 1, I have a piece of Parakeet Party cardstock. Now, Parakeet Party is one of the in colors that is going to retire. It has been around for 2 years along with its 4 best friends. And I'll tell you, these colors have been 5 of my favorites. So I'm very sad to see them go. Let me pull them out for you real quick because they're sitting right here. And at the time that this is airing, it is the last weekend of April. And so these might not even be available by then. They could be sold out. But these 5 colors have been wonderful stamping companions for the last 2 years. This color is one of those. So we're going to be saying goodbye to Parakeet Party. The piece of cardstock measures 5.5 by 7.25. So it started out almost like a regular card base, and it's scored at 4.25, but I cut some off of this edge so that we could have a card base that looks like this. All right, then I have a piece of basic white, and this is just going to be a panel that goes on the inside. It's 4 inches by 5.25. Now for the front of the card, I have another piece of white, and this piece here is 2 3/4 inches by 5.25. That layer is going to go here with my designer series paper on top of it. This is 2.5 by 5 inches. All right, so these are how our layers are going to go. Now this little piece, this is your secondary designer series paper. I chose a large bold print coupled with a delicate print. You'll see when I show you the other 2 cards how you can vary this up a little bit. So this one is just going to go here like so. All right, so let me bring in case you want to write these down or take a screenshot. These are the measurements for this version A of the card. All right, I'll also put the measurements down below in the description box so you can find those. All right, so let's do some gluing. I'm going to attach my designer series paper to the white piece. So when I was playing with this card, the design is actually cased from something else I saw. Totally different colors, totally different papers, and the card that I saw didn't include any dimensions. So from there, just getting the idea, I created my card with its dimensions. And as I was doing it, I realized that there was definitely a minor difference in the dimensions of the paper, the measurements, that you could choose to go this way or that way. So that's why I'm going to show you both ways. Okay, so I've got my designer series paper lined up on that white layer. And now that piece is going to get layered onto the front of my card base. All right, the designer series paper that I'm using for this first card is one that is called, let me tell you, It is called Delightful Floral 12 by 12 designer series paper, and you'll have to forgive me. I did look these up. I think that this one is already sold out, I believe. All right, so there's that. Now I wanted to mention something. I loved this paper, and the one thing that I did not like is on the fronts, which were beautiful prints like this. There was a larger one, and then this kind of medium print and the small print. But on the backs of all of the papers, all of the B-sides were kind of this plain, I don't know, I call it mottled look. And so it was in all the different colors, but just plain. So I didn't like the backs of any of these papers. So I used up this pack of paper pretty quickly because I really only cared for the fronts. So all right, I'm going to put the glue on the back side of this one, this color, the plainness that I did not like. And I'm going to attach this. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that white panel that's going to go on the inside. I'm going to attach this to my white panel. Now, it's going to cover edge to edge, which is what I want. And this is where, sticking to the end, there is a variation of this step that you're going to want to see. Okay, so I've attached my designer series paper right to the edges of that white piece, and this is the piece that goes on the inside of the card. Okay, here's the inside panel, and that pretty little paper is going to be the part that peeks out. So I'm centering this inside the card base, and I want that little green edge showing on the edge of my designer series paper. Can you see that? And then when the card is closed, it looks like that. So all those nice borders look really great. All right, see how easy? You've got a couple pieces of designer series paper, some plain. Okay, we're gonna do our stamping. I have a scrap of Berry Burst and a scrap of white, and I used the Stylish Shapes dies, 2 of those circles from that die set. And I'm going to use Berry Burst ink to stamp Hey There. I don't know about you, but I often like to send a card kind of when it's not necessarily an occasion. So it's not a birthday, it's not a thank you card. And so I like cards that just say, hey there, or hello, or hi friend. So this one totally fits that purpose. Hey there. All right, I'm going to attach this to my Berry Burst circle. And then this gets attached to the card. And what we want to do is just find a nice placement where it's kind of sticking out onto this piece of designer paper, and obviously a little bit more onto the larger flap. And then we're just going to add our adhesive on one side so that we don't accidentally glue the card shut. You could, of course, use dimensionals for this part, and maybe I will on the second one, because we're going to go from this into the second variation. Let's see if I did that right. I kind of did it crooked. I need a scrap so I can just scrape off a little bit of that glue. Okay, when I flipped it over, I kind of went crooked. So this is straight. I need glue. This should have been a little bit straighter. It's going to be fine because I know that I'm not gluing my card together. So let's put that into place. Yep, we're all clear on the glue. And then I'm going to add a couple of little embellishments. So on this first example, let's use these Purple Fine Shimmer Gems. And I'm going to use 3 of them. The Purple Fine Shimmer Gems kind of have a gradient color. So there's almost, let me see if I can put that up against a white piece. You can see it better. almost a muted purple, closer to like a berry or a black or blackberry, and then kind of a true purple and then a light purple. So I'm using the lightest purple on this card. Maybe it's kind of, where do I want to put these? I'm going to put a big one down here. This is kind of pulling out the fresh freesia color that's in the paper. All right, there we go. Now, the card that I cased also had a stamped and die cut image on it, which I didn't feel like this card needed, but if you wanted to step it up a little bit, of course you could do that, or perhaps add a bow or a knot, but I kept it very clean and simple. All right, there's the first one. Let's go on to the second one, and I used some different colors and papers on this one. All right, all of the measurements are the same for this card. So I haven't changed the measurements. I'm going to do that on version B. This is just a different variety of colors, but all the measurements are the same. Okay, you can probably hear Cabby in the background. She's talking to Pino, trying to get her to play with her. All right. In this instance, I chose, instead of a white layer, to go ahead and use a colored piece of cardstock. Okay, let's see if we can get Cabby's attention. Come here, girl. Come here, girl. Come here. Come here. Come here. All right. Oh, that's her little Yorkie head. Yes. Okay. Instead of white here, I chose to use a layer of colored cardstock. So this is Highland Heather, and it's going to go on my front panel. Now I've probably created a monster, because now Cabby is sitting on my lap and she thinks she is the queen of the craft studio today. And she's actually looking at her little sister like, ha, I got to get picked up. All right, now I've got DSP, this time from a packet of paper that is called, I'll show it to you. Okay, this is some of it. It is called Perennial Lavender. And to the absolute best of my knowledge, it is not retiring. I could not find it on the last chance list. And when I type the code in, it still completely comes up and does not say retiring soon. So that's kind of fun, because we rarely have any designer series paper that carries over. And this time there are a few. So I'm going to take my piece of DSP and get that attached to that Highland Heather piece. Okay, so that was one of the differences. Instead of a white layer, I chose to use a secondary colored cardstock, which I thought was awful pretty, even though the one with the white is beautiful too. All right, and then I have a piece of white cardstock. Oh yeah, I was showing you the purple gems. Here it is. All right, so again, this is my piece that's 4 by 5 1/4. It's gonna go on the inside, but I am going to go ahead and attach this as we did the first time. Okay, this happens to be the back side of that same paper, the paper that I used on the front of the card. So this time I'm putting the glue on that side because I want this tiny little delicate print to show. All right, so this is going to line up edge to edge on my white piece. And that piece becomes the inside panel. It's sticking out a teeny bit right there. I don't think it's going to matter. If it bothers you, you could take your scissors and just snip it. Sometimes even when you measure something exactly the same size, it just has a little margin of error built into it. But this isn't going to matter. That white isn't showing, so that's the most important part. All right, so I'm going to lay this in here with a little border of the Gorgeous Grape. Did I tell you that that was this color? This is Gorgeous Grape, if I didn't tell you. And this layer there was Highland Heather. Okay, those two look really nice together. Okay, so there's the middle, voila. And now let's do our stamping. So this time I chose my larger circle out of Blackberry Bliss and then my white circle. So I'm going to use Gorgeous Grape ink, just like my cardstock. And I'm going to use the stamp that says thank you. We'll make this one into a thank you card. So I am stamping with a little bit of a challenge because I have my 5-pound Yorkie sitting on my lap since she was barking a few minutes ago and it was annoying. So she is, let's see if she's right here. You see her nose? Oh, Cabby. You notice as I'm recording, if you've ever heard any of the 2 dogs barking in the background, it's always Cabby. Pinot tends to be more quiet, unless there's truly something to bark at. Then Pinot is the one, she is the true watchdog. She will run to the door or to the window and bark at whatever it is, and Cabby won't make a sound. But if the room is quiet and Cabby wants attention, you're going to hear from her. All right, last time we put this on just with our liquid glue, and I had mentioned that I might want to try dimensionals this time. So let's do that. Now again, I have to be careful to not put any of the dimensionals over here so that it doesn't stick on my card where I don't want it to. So I'm going to flip this very carefully, and I want to stay on that half. Two probably would have been enough, but it felt like 3 at the time. So, okay, so we're wrapping up this card. I think I'll go ahead and use a couple of those purple fine shimmer gems again. And this time I'm going to take from the darker end of the package. Yes. And maybe just 1. Let's see what 1 looks like. It would work. I still feel inclined to add a few extras. So let's put a big one there. We'll do like we did on the first one. We'll use 3. All right, now, thank you for sticking with me and being patient. I am going to show you this same card, but with the optional measurements. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have card, this is card version A in 2 different looks. And now we're going to do card version B, which changes up the measurements a little bit. So I'm going back to my original color scheme. And I'm starting with a Parakeet Party card base. We've already discussed that it's a color that's retiring. So this time, instead of starting with a 5.5 by 7.25 inch base, I'm starting with a 5.5 by 7 inch. It does have a score line at 4.25. That's where it's folded. And this time, this portion is going to be a little bit smaller, and this portion is going to be a little bit wider. All right, so that's the change. Okay, so now we're going to lay our white piece, and the white piece measures 2.5 by 5.25, and before it was a 1/4 inch bigger. Okay, so we're just trimming down a little bit in one side, and it's making the other side have a little bit more space. Okay, then my designer series paper, you remember last time it was 2.5 by 5. This time it is smaller because this panel is smaller and this one's larger than card A. So this is 2.25 by 5. And because I'm using this smaller print this time, instead of the large print, then I didn't really have a good choice for what to use right there. And so with that said, I actually opted for the B side of the paper, which I already admitted at the beginning of this video I don't like. So here is the front of the paper, and that's way too busy, so I didn't want to use that. But I decided to go ahead and use the B side, which is kind of that green mottled look, and it's going to go right here. All right, so here's where the other variation comes in. Instead of a full panel of white, I'm just going to go ahead and attach my piece of designer series paper to the inside of the card like this, and then we're going to use a separate piece of white on the inside that only measures 2 3/8 by 5 1/4. So it's just going to fill up the extra space. So instead of a whole panel of white and then covering some up, you can just cut a smaller panel of white and have them next to each other. Now, with that said, just watch kind of the method that I put this on. So I'm going to put the white piece on first. I want to put it way close to the fold, but not so close that it's going to get in the way of the fold. So almost right up next to the fold, but leaving a little gap. And then I want my top border and my bottom border to be about equal here and here. Okay, so I did that piece first, and that is so that, I don't know if I gave you the measurements of this. This is 1 3/4 inches by 5 1/4. Okay, so when you put this in, you could try to butt it up right against each other, but I feel like when there's a seam like that, it kind of shows up. So what I'm going to attempt to do is just have it barely overlap. That's why I wanted the white piece down first. So I want this side of the piece obviously to look good with the card because that's what's going to show. But I'm having that left side of my green paper just barely overlap the white piece. And for some reason, that just looks smoother. It's a smoother seam than having those two pieces come together like this. So that's what I decided to show you today. All right, so now we've got that. It's kind of plain, but now that it's on there, I do like it. I didn't get too bothered by it once I used it, but I did want to use a larger shape for my words. So instead of circles, I chose these two rounded rectangles, and these are from a set of dies called Nested Essentials. And best of my memory, these will be sticking around. Let me double check that because I don't want to lead you astray. I know I'm keeping them because I keep all of the shape type dies. I don't get rid of those even if I'm downsizing and cleaning out to make room for new things. So the Nested Essentials are staying. Okay. This has been a great set of dies, so I do encourage you to consider this. So I'm using not the smallest and not the largest. I'm using the two sizes in between. I've cut my square out of fresh freesia and then, or my rectangle, and then white. All right, so we could use the grape, gorgeous grape again. I think we will. It's right here. I was going to maybe reach for fresh freesia, but I think we'll stick with gorgeous grape. And this time I've chosen the Faith Over Fear stamp. I'm kind of unsure about stamping this in purple since I used fresh freesia there. So I'm just going to look at it. This would be on the white with this underneath it. Okay, that totally works. Oh, good. And now I have a car alarm going off in my neighborhood. Today is just full of challenges. Okay. This is going to fit nicely on this rounded rectangle. Look at that. And then this can get attached. And as I mentioned, there was a truck outside and that car horn. So Pino went to have a thing or two to say about that. And Cabby's just sitting here, totally quiet. Okay, there is our piece. I'm really liking this shape. I liked the circles, but I really like how this looks. This is gonna go right here. And I think what I'll do, just to do something different, is I'm just gonna add a little bit of tear and tape to the side that I know needs to get glued down. That's this side. So I'll use 2 pieces of tear and tape way over on the left edge. I know I have my piece turned right now, so it looks like it's the bottom, but no, it's going to be the left edge. And then we'll use some different embellishments on this one. Again, this is version B, and these were the measurements of the second version, and I'll put those in the description box as well. All right, so those fine shimmer purple gems we used on the first 2 cards, and they're super pretty. On this one, we're going to use some sequins. These are called adhesive backed shiny sequins, and they come in, it's in 4 colors, a pretty variety. You could use just about any of these on this card and it would look great. So I'm just going to reach for this greenish color and put a sequin here. And here. I'll use 3, 2 small and a large on this one. Oh, I like the sequins too. All right, and there we have our B version of the same card. And I like how that looks now. So I might have to make more of these and try to use up the B side of that packet of paper. All right, and there we have the inside. Let me bring in the other 2 cards for one last look. I do thank you for joining me today and watching this tutorial. I would love to hear from you. So please leave a comment, like this video, share this video. It helps me know that you're enjoying it, and it encourages me to keep putting content out there for you. I'll put some information for you in the description box below this video, including a current host code. And if you did find something in today's tutorial that you really like and would like to purchase, then I would appreciate you using me as your demonstrator, using that host code when you order. And until next time, happy stamping.